Welcome to this episode of Engineering Success Profile Editions. Today we're joined by Minal Patel, who's going to be talking to us about her role as an Engineering Doctoral Researcher. Hi Minal, and welcome to the show.
Hi Jamie, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. Can we start right at the beginning? What made you choose a career in engineering?
So as a kid, media and what you see on TV can impact you a lot. And seeing so many different careers on TV, I just wanted to be every occupation on earth. I wanted to be an artist, a psychiatrist, but yeah, so I just wanted to be everything and anything out there when I was younger. There was also like societal and parental sort of influences which sort of inspired me into my journey. My mum's always said to me, I can be anything that I set my mind to. So I kept my options open. It was when I was in year 10 that I started thinking about engineering. I spoke to a careers advisor and explored sort of what my strengths were, what made me happy and what I wanted to learn more about. I was really like hands-on. I love to do like DIY and make things. So one thing I knew for sure though, out of going into my career, was that I wanted to change lives. If I was a lawyer, it would be a civil rights lawyer, or you know, that can really give an impact. So I wanted to sort of make an impact not only on one person but millions of people's lives. And engineering was that route. I could create devices, or I could change systems that doesn't just affect tens of people in one day, it can affect millions. And with life being so unpredictable and unstable, engineering had given me a sense of sort of security, financially for the future as well. So I came into engineering.
So what route did you take into your engineering career?
So I started off with a traditional route, doing GCSEs and A-levels, etc. When I went to school in West London, where I completed my GCSEs, did options of graphics, triple science, and some of my maths at A-level early as well. So when I was after my GCSEs, I picked maths, physics, chemistry, and economics. And I initially wanted to go into sort of finance and accounting, even though I'd discussed with a careers advisor in my GCSE time that I wanted to go into engineering. So that was a changed, and wanted to go into finance. So I did a placement out there. And then when I got into my final year, year 13, was when I went back to engineering again and exploring that as a route when it came to applying for universities. So I didn't do very well in my A-level grades. Everything was quite unstable for me in my personal life, which affected my academic grades. So I failed my first year of A-levels, but because of the support network around me, I pushed on. And there's a big stigma about people retaking their A-levels as well at that time. So on to year 13, I dropped economics. I did maths, physics, and chemistry. And I didn't get my grades because of personal circumstances. And I repeated that year. My grades did improve a little bit, but not enough to go to the universities that I wanted to, or the course, etc. But I was lucky, and I got into university to do material science and engineering. I had two different routes at that point. It was going into accounting and finance, which was what I'd decided engineering. But I'd bounced back and wanted to keep consistent with engineering, and this is when life had taught me what resilience was. There was a particular project at Swansea University where I went, which really inspired me to continue with engineering, which was a sustainable house that they were building out there. And it was all sort of, they were working on getting it self-sufficient, sort of like off the grid. And that really drove my interest further into material science and engineering.
Brilliant. So you're currently working on your engineering doctorate. Can you explain a bit more about what that actually involves and how does that actually differ from a PhD?
So working as an engineering doctoral researcher, it's similar to a PhD. However, you're based in industry and the program is typically 4 years long.
Right.
My project is sponsored by the Engineering and Physical and Research Council, Physical and Sciences Research Council.
Yeah.
And I'm part of a central doctoral training. And each CDT has a different structure for the course of the EngD.
Right.
In my EngD, on top of doing my doctoral research over the 4 years, I have modules called short courses, where I do 1 week of lectures and then the following week I have to submit coursework, and I have about 12 or 13 of them when I first started doctorate.
Yeah.
I also have to do a project management module on top, and I've finished that, where it talks about leadership, talking about waterfall, agile, talking about how the Myers-Briggs personality test, how you can work more efficiently in a team and how to lead one.
Yeah.
The final sort of additional aspect is a communications portfolio. So the engineering doctoral program really makes you industry ready, and it's not just for academia, that you get to be a full-rounded individual with gaining so many different skills, and these soft skills are also really important and an integral part of the course. So with this communications portfolio, there are hours sort of requirements on what public engagement you do, attending conferences, any journal publications, any STEM work. It all comes under the program when you sort of come out of being a doctor.
Yeah. Because soft skills are so important now, aren't they, for engineering? Engineering is not really in the background like it used to be, and those soft skills are becoming more and more important.
Yeah, definitely agree. On top of all of that, we also annually have a CDT conference. All the EngD researchers from all the different years, their industrial sponsors and lecturers from academia who are supervisors. We meet every year, and I have to either present my research as a poster or as a presentation. So that really enhances that soft skill side of things as well. Because if you can't communicate your research, your impact is minimal. And with science and the funding for these research projects, it's all about making an impact, benefit the public and the wider community, and really emphasizing that.
So what's your engineering doctoral research about?
So my research is on a thing called a thermal barrier coating. So with me here, I have a section of a gas turbine engine. So they usually be in a ring, and it gets extremely hot in these engines. Temperatures can exceed 1,000 degrees Celsius, which can melt this metal here. So that's why we need to apply a thermal barrier coating. So this white layer here, thermal barrier coating, the integrity of this coating determines the lifetime of the overall engine components, and these engines can be the size of a blue whale. And they facilitate the production of electricity as well. Compared to renewable energy, it's very weather dependent, and it only contributes a small percentage of the UK's energy demand to produce electricity. Majority of about 60% is still heavily reliant on gas turbine engines because of its ability. My particular research focus is producing pillars. So like cylindrical pillars, they're like the size of a blood cell within this coating, and understanding where failure is happening on that small scale, because that's where it initiates from. And that's where it can lead to the catastrophic failure of the entire engine. So that's what my research project is investigating.
Unbelievably interesting, isn't it, that stuff?
Yeah,
So
something so small can make such a
yeah.
massive impact.
It's amazing. So what skills do you think are needed to become an engineering doctoral researcher?
So personally, I don't think any specific skills are needed to be an engineering doctoral researcher or any form of engineer or anything that you want to be as a career. I think it's your mindset and
Right.
all the things that you implement in your life and how you approach life in general. So when I mentioned failing my A levels and going through that hardship, that developed my resilience, and I use that now with my current project. Science and engineering and projects don't always go in the right direction. We have to be resilient and keep thinking of creative and new solutions. So that's a skill. It is developing resilience, which can be done throughout your personal life. You know, our personal skills that we developed in our personal life are implemented within our professional ones. And what's happened for me. It's also the willingness to grow and adapt yourself. As I mentioned, you want to be able to take these situations and spin it round and think, okay, if this didn't work, why, how, when, what do we need, and how we're going to move forward with this. So yeah, that being sort of the skills based is just being open to growth and accepting failure and using a failure as your strengths.
Yeah. So for you, what do you find the most challenging part of your job?
So the challenge that I relish the most, because I think if your job's not challenging, what are you doing?
yeah, that's right.
Because that's where growth happens. That's where we learn more and become better, really. So for me, it's having to manage this 4-year project, and all the research and outcomes solely depend on me. So I'm managing multiple projects that feed into this one greater project. And if my project, if I go down, my project goes down. So it's trying to keep everything afloat. And I'm managing not only people who are at my level, but also working with supervisors and chairing meetings, etc. So it's quite a lengthy process, and with doctoral research, you don't really clock off like you do in a job. You know, where you do your hours, you office day, and you go off and do whatever you want. With the doctoral research and being the project solely dependent on you, you're constantly thinking about it. I've woken up out of sleep and like, oh, maybe I should and write that down for like how I can change the experiment and stuff. And even on weekends, sometimes you're working really long hours, and working on weekends as well is something that can happen quite easily because of availability of machines and just the progression of the project. So yeah, that's the challenging part of it.
So on the flip side of that, what's the most rewarding part for you?
There are many. So for me, it's being able to have contacts within academia as well as industry. So having the of a network is so important nowadays. It can lead you to your next job or your next purchase of a house or whatever. Work is incredibly useful, and being able to have the access to both routes within academia and industry, because those are two separate career journeys. And you approach life differently when you go down each route. Having the ability to and the option to go down academia, or even just the contact of speaking to academics, because I'm in that field, incredible, because they can be really, really busy. And also having some of my supervisors based in industry as well, I get the best of both.
So I know you do an awful lot of outreach work, promoting engineering to young people. What's your message to young people to attract them into a career in engineering?
So as I said before, like I personally believe that anyone can be an engineer, or you can be a model, you can be anything that you put your mind to. There's no sort of direct route to becoming what you want to be as well. So despite me going through A levels and going to university, people can also go off and study art, but then think, oh, maybe I want to go back and try engineering, because as engineering relates to everything that we do, whether it comes to medicines, whether manufacturing medicines, and with art, the link there is if you want to restore portraits and buildings as well, you're going to need engineers. So there's always a different route, and no matter what stage in your life, you can become an engineer. And it's about how you approach life, as I said before. You just sort of putting a system in place for yourself and developing good habits and routines. I think it's really also important to be happy in your career and in general. You want to wake up and think, okay, this is what I'm going to do today, and okay, how am I going to change this project? And you know, that sense of accomplishment, really. When you see your project completely complete, and you see like TfL and the trains and this, that railway infrastructure, or like security system, they're all done by an engineer. So my advice would be to young people wanting to go into engineering, or even older people who decided that that's what they want to do, is just trust the process, because it's not linear, and trust yourself, because there'll be moments where it can be really challenging and you want to give up, and you always think that, oh, at this age I should have all of, like, be in promotion and senior. Things can throw you out of the blue in your personal life, which can change timelines, and it's being open to that flexibility and adapting yourself. Okay, if this didn't work out right, how do I go about it? Okay, this is really well for me, I'm gonna go forward, I'm gonna keep going. Speak to people around you. You don't know where it could lead you, and not being judgmental of people who have come in through different routes or are at different stages. Like we said before, now with the key workers, so important, everyone from doctors to bin men, everything going. And these bin men have been taking out our trash for years, but they don't have the same recognition.
That's right.
Seeing how important they are. And my point with that statement is, someone who's a recent graduate, someone who's a CEO could learn from a recent graduate, as well as learning from a CEO. It's a two-way street. So never undermine your skills and what you've developed, no matter what stage you are at in your career, because I believe everyone has something to teach one another, and don't be intimidated by people who are further along in their career as well.
So you're the Vice Chair of the IET London Young Professional Network. Can you tell us a bit more about what the YPN does and how it engages with young people and encourages them into STEM fields?
So with the Young Professional Network at the IET, we are a group of individuals aging from the age of 18 all the way to 35. Our mission essentially is to form a network and a community for young professionals within engineering and technology field. We host webinars to engage people with current topics. So I hosted recently a Engineers Combating COVID, so highlighting young professionals who have been in the heart of tackling this COVID issue as engineers. In addition to that, we run sort of life skills workshops where it's equipping any young professional with skills of, okay, how do I approach a negotiation at work, or promotion, or how do I transition from one job to another, and even soft skills as well. The third thing that we do is we encourage people to become professionally registered with the IET. So we arrange workshops for that to be done as well, and support and links with the IET and guide you in the right direction of how you can become professionally registered, whether it's technically incorporated or CEng.
Yeah. So final question. What advice would you give to a future engineering doctoral researcher?
So I believe in thinking differently in a way that challenges the status quo of the engineering industry. So thinking outside of the box, and if you think that something isn't right, challenge it, question yourself. I think I'm always questioning, asking why you're doing this in a certain way. And that's really important with a PhD research and engineering doctoral research, is constantly asking yourself, why are you taking these steps? What's driving you to take those steps? What's the motivation behind that? So my vision for the future is to lead creative and technical engineers to sort of research solutions to global challenges. And I'm confident that these new young engineers will be able to accomplish that, and the new generations will deliver this sort of guiding principles, and with like honesty, authenticity, integrity, and love. And I think those attributes seem like things that are only applicable in our personal life, but they are also applicable into our professional life, because our colleagues and close can become our close friends. It's about the network and who you surround yourself with as well. So
Minal, that's it. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you very much for having me, Jamie.